Hi, it's Heather Smith here, and today we have a session on the business advisory platform MAUS, which is spelled M-A-U-S. Now, what we have is something that we ran as a lunchtime webinar, and I've pulled it together and we're uploading it up to YouTube. It in fact corrupted when we ran it as a lunchtime webinar, so we re-recorded it again. I think you'll find it really beneficial. MAUS, to let you know, is two complementary offerings. They have software that supports the advisor, and they have educational content that supports being an advisor. So they have an extensive educational library built up over many years. In fact, they've been around for 28 years and they're based in Sydney. And they're all about helping people, bookkeepers, accountants, move into the advisory space. So I think you'll find this really informative, and Chris Palmer is delivering the webinar. So I'll drop links below, but thank you very much for watching.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the MAUS lunchtime learning session. Today's topic, what we're going to be looking at, is transitioning to advisory services. So what we're really focusing on here are the accountants and the bookkeepers that are looking to transition their service or broaden their offering and offer greater value to their clients, and how that can be supplemented or how that can be made like an easier process through the MAUS tools. So to step back and look at the bigger picture here, what we're really looking at is the challenges currently to the accountants and bookkeepers and this industry. And what it's really coming down to is the future potential decline of the tax and compliance work. So how are we going to look at maintaining that profitability? And one of the easiest transitions and one of the most comfortable transitions for accountants and bookkeepers out there is to offer advisory services. So what we're going to be looking at today are some of the core MAUS tools to take your clients from that tax and compliance work to advisory services, or bring through a new revenue stream of purely advisory-based clientele. So for those of you that aren't aware of MAUS, we have been around for many, many years now, been around for about 26 years, and we now host the largest range of advisory tools in one system. And it's all a cloud-based tool nowadays, and it's all a white-labeled instant reporting system. Now, as you can see down the bottom there, there's a couple of different areas we do target. So we take that initial business diagnostics, so those initial meetings. We look at financial and KPI reporting with our VCFO tool and Kpi Dashboarding. We also do strategic and business planning, so we have our master plan tool, which is our business planning tool. Exit and succession planning is a big segment at the moment and a huge area of opportunity for all the accountants and bookkeepers out there to get involved in this space. We probably won't have time today to jump into those tools, but if anyone is interested to have a look at them closer, just let me know. And then lastly, the human resources and policy and procedures aspect. Now, this isn't an area that I guess a lot of accountants and bookkeepers generally put their hand up to offer those sort of services, but they're fantastic additional revenue earners and tools that you can have there in your back pocket, so you can offer them as additional add-ons for your clientele. Again, we won't be able to look at those tools in today's session, but if anyone is interested in looking at how you can automate the creation of policies and procedures and that sort of thing, then just let us know. So when we talk about advisory services, we've put together a bit of a model and correlated it to a lot of the MAUS tools, as this graphic here shows. So looking at those earlier stages, so step one, preparing your firm for success. Look, that's internal. That's with you guys to say, okay, this is what we want to do, and start to come up with your own model around what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be offering. Once we've got through that, we then look at starting to implement it. And that really kicks off with unlocking your client's needs. So whether you're offering this to the tax and compliance based clients, or you're targeting and marketing the advisory clientele directly. And that's where we use our client needs analysis. And that's the first tool we're going to look at in today's session. The client needs analysis is perfect for that initial fact find. That initial might be a free 1-hour consultation to get that initial idea of where our client is at the moment and where they want to get to. And off the back of that, we get this fantastic report that says, look, here's all your key pain points. Here's the gaps we see at the moment. Here's an action plan. Let's get going. Number 3 there, the create So creating a disturbance in your client's mind. That's where we've got to have that call to action for them of why they need to be, I guess, taking up your advisory services. And we've got a couple of different tools there. One is our profit builder, and that's where we can show the potential for them, so the potential ROI for them. And that looks at unlocking trapped cash, revenue, and profit. So if we can increase sales by X percentage, how is that going to affect our profit, and so forth. And also Value Max, our exit planning tools. Now, as much as we position them as exit planning, what we're really focusing on there is value building. And that's why we see the Value Max tools, they really can be the overarching of the entire engagement, because through those tools we're identifying all different areas of the business that may need improvement. Step number 4, the analyze. That's really coming down to that financial reporting, so what everyone's comfortable with in the call here today. And that virtual CFO tool, like our Kpi Dashboard in MAUS, they link in with your Xero and your QuickBooks, any other accounting data. They can also be brought into the system via an Excel spreadsheet. So your virtual CFO there, that's really for your quarterly or half-yearly financial reports, going into the detail behind the numbers. Step number 5, and possibly one of the most important, implement. That's really driving that monthly value-based engagement methodology of meeting with your client once a month or having that monthly interaction and using a tool to supplement that meeting. And that's where we look to the Kpi Dashboard. So that's measuring those, yes, financial, but also those non-financial KPIs on a monthly perspective. So the KPIs, the financial-based ones, they again will link in from your Xero, your QuickBooks files. But what we really need to do there, and as cliche as it may sound, we need to look at going beyond the numbers and creating those KPIs that are specific and measurable for that client. And in the MAUS system, you can create any sort of KPI you'd like. Now also the milestones that's there. That works very well alongside the KPIs. So your KPIs is your monthly recurring tasks. Your milestones is like a task planner. So that's how we can manage projects and tasks that we've assigned to our client. Rather than just mentioning it to them, we hold them accountable to them with the system. And then finally service, number 6. So that's as we're working with our client, we may start to identify alternative needs and different services that we may be able to add on and offer to our client. And that's where things like our policies and procedures might come into place. That's a good example. So you might be working with your client and you just notice a lack of systems, a lack of structure. So you might be able to offer them, well, I'll help you with your operational policies and procedures. And historically, that may not be something you would have thought of adding to, but if you've got a tool behind you and a system behind you, you really end up project managing it because you don't need to be necessarily an expert in that area. You just need to know how to facilitate that process. So that's a good initial overview of what we're going to be looking at today. So from here, let's jump into the MAUS systems and have a look at the way they work. So the screen that's up here at the moment, this is when you log in as the consultant or as the advisor. This is the screen you see. And this is simply my client backend. So this is where I can jump into any of my clients' accounts and begin using the tools. Now, as you can see from MAUS, it is quite modular. So KPIs is one module, or master plan, our business planning tool, is one module. So what each of your clients may have, or what you might be using with each of your clients, can be different. So you as the advisor, you've got the complete autonomy of what you want to turn off and on for each client as you're working with them. So we can see here I've got a range of clients in the system. I've got company ABC, I've got the barbershop, and so forth. Now in here as well, before we go into a client and begin using the tools, it's worth noting that the MAUS tool is completely white labeled. So where we see the MAUS logo up the top left there, that's replaced by your logo. Where we see the company name up the top, that would show your company name. And same as when we click on a client's account here and we go into their side, you'll notice the white labeled aspect. And same for the reporting. Any reports that we pull out of the MAUS tools are again white labeled, and they'll come out in a Word, Excel, or PowerPoint format. So for the example today, we're going to click on Company ABC. And we're going to use the tools working on our client, in this case, Company ABC. So the screen we've got open there is just the generic cover page, but what we're really focusing on is the left-hand side, these categories over here. And this is how we access all the different modules in MAUS. So from within one portal, we can access all these different tools. So under Strategy and Financial, that's where I've got my Kpi Dashboard. That's where I've got that Profit Builder tool that we mentioned before. There's the Milestone projects, master plan being the business planning, the virtual CFO financial analysis, and ValueMax, our exit planning tools. Now you can also see we do HR, we do health and safety, and documents and policies, and assessment and analysis. So where we're actually going to start today is down in that assessment and analysis category, because what I want to go through is that client needs analysis. And as I mentioned, this is that fantastic tool to use as that initial diagnostic. Now for the accountants and bookkeepers out there, it's a fantastic tool to use as maybe that post-compliance audit. So maybe you meet with that client, and as part of that session, you work in the client needs analysis. So maybe saying to them, look, we've got a diagnostic tool here. Let's just have a chat and see how your business is performing and if there's any other areas we can assist with. So opening up the client needs, we just click on that there, and it opens up as shown. So the client needs has 4 main areas that we run through, and these are the 4 up here, from financial goals through to the business scan. The report at the end is what we'll run after that session with the client. So financial goals, this first page, what we're really looking at is where is that business now and where do they want the business to get to? And we simply type in these figures here. And if I change that there, that will alter the chart on the right-hand side. Down the bottom, we've got the personal shareholder goals. So that is, look, what are they pulling out of the business at the moment compared to what would they like to be pulling out? Same looking at their stress levels, and then we also touch on exit planning and business value. So have they thought of selling the business? If so, where do they think it might be valued at now compared to where would they like it to be valued at? And in an ideal situation, when are they looking to exit the business? The pain points. This is one of the most fantastic steps in the client needs analysis. And what we're looking at here, what are those key issues that are really keeping your client awake at night? And that can be anything. And we can type in these on the left-hand side. So we just type in these here. So I've got examples of marketing and product range, so forth. We then rank those based on priority and impact. So changing these here, we'll simply move these bubbles around the graph as shown. So very simple. That last column there, the figure we put in there, will impact the size of the bubble. So that's why these ones here are different sizes due to those figures that we've associated with them. The priority areas. This looks at 6 main areas that make up a high performance business. And what we're doing here is we're ranking them and saying, look, what are we focusing on here? So are we working with maybe that new start business? If so, business strategy and planning and strategy execution are going to be paramount. If we're working with that business owner who's 60, 65 years of age that's looking to retire, then maybe exit and succession is their primary. They just want to look at transitioning out of the business and making sure that's a successful exit. If so, that's what we're going to be focusing on. Now, it might not look like we're doing a whole lot there, but there's a great amount of educational material that we provide in the report behind the scenes that we'll show you in a second. The final step is the business scan, and that's what's open here on the screen at the moment. And this is a questionnaire. So we have a number of different questionnaires that run throughout MAUS. This one here that's in the client needs analysis is referred to as the high performance business quiz. So it's quite an overview questionnaire, quite a general questionnaire, but very effective in pinpointing what areas of the business, again, we need to be focusing on. So in this questionnaire, there's 7 sections, and the 7 sections are there, shown in that drop-down box, from high-level goals through to performance culture. Now on each, there's a number of questions. So on high-level goals where we are at the moment, there's 4 questions, looking at business goals, exit goals, and so forth. Now the perfect thing here is, with each, the question's already there for you. So in this case, for business goals, we mentioned, do you have your high-level business goals documented? And we can score that from a 1 to a 6. If it's not applicable to that client for whatever reason, you just leave it as NA. Now, those questions there, you may read it and think that's a yes/no question. And at the top level, yes it is. But as soon as you ask that second probing question, it's that layers of the onion effect, that's when we reveal the truth behind that answer. So they may say, yes, we do. And if you say, okay, that's fantastic, when was the last time you did it? And they reply with, well, when the business was established 5 years ago, well, then that's not good enough. That is definitely down at that 1 or 2 level. They need to be continually reviewed as the business is developing. So that's where as well that comment section on the right-hand side is fantastic, because we can place in our feedback or the reference of why the client thinks they're a certain score. So that's why in this case, I've put in there, we haven't updated them since 2015 in this example, and I've scored it at a 2. or the exit goals I've put in, we completed it in March 2017, so it's a 5 because they're doing quite well there. So once we run through all of those, we get to the end, and this will give you an initial result. So in this case, this client scored at 48%. Now you can choose to give that to your client then and there, or you can keep that to yourself and wait until you generate the report for your client. Now when we talk about the report side, all we're then going to do is click on report here, choose the areas of the report we want to produce, and click submit. Now, one of the things to note here as that's flashing through the screens is, as I mentioned before, we are a complete white labeled system. So this is going to produce this report into a Word document. So what that then means is you can then customize the material as much or as little as you'd like, and you can also build in your branding. Now there's a few good features in MAUS, so you can actually load in your own cover page to MAUS. So every time you produce a report, no matter what client it's for, you've got your own cover page there. And I've done that here. So we've now got the client needs analysis open. And on the left-hand side, we can see my cover page. Now, even though this is a preloaded cover page, I can still edit it. So I want to change that text to white because it looks a bit better against the blue. We can do so. So we can change all of that content. On the right-hand side, we kick off the first part of the report with the financial goals, that first part we looked at. So it provides a brief summary of what we want to achieve from the turnover perspective, and then we've got that graph and table below as the reference. Scrolling down from there, we look at the pain points. So what were those pain points that we allocated? And what you might do here, because it's in a Word document, you might choose to add in your own recommendation here over on the right-hand side and say, based on our findings, we anticipate that we need to look at pain points 1, 2, and 3 initially, and the others in the long term. Scrolling down a little bit further, we look at the priority areas. So those 6 different areas that we allocated. Now what we start to do here as well is educate our client. So educating the client around why these are important. So that's why we've got possible client outcomes here. So if we improve in these areas, what's the corresponding outcome going to be? Now again, if you want to change any of that information or remove any information, you can do so as shown there. Scrolling down a little bit further, we provide this educational breakdown again. So these client education discussion items. So we look at a lot of these main areas and provide a breakdown of why they should be focusing on it and what they can be doing. Now for you as the advisor, there is a little one-liner below each section that says what MAUS tool you can be using to supplement that process or to help implement that service. So if accountability and strategy execution is a big focus, you know you've got the MAUS Kpi Dashboard tool. If you need to work on business planning over on the left, we know we can use Masterplan, the business planning tool. Now before you present that to your client, you may want to just take that one line out. They don't necessarily need to know there's a system behind it all. So I'll scroll through the rest of those. So you can see there's quite a good bit of content there. And again, if any of these sections here are not applicable to that client, you simply remove that section. So scrolling on from there, we're going to come down to our results from the questionnaire, these 2 pages here. Now in this case, it doesn't look great. This client wasn't performing too well, but we get the idea of what this does. It creates a traffic light report so we can start to grade or identify what we need to be working on with that client. So overall, we scored at 48%. And then we can also see the breakdown of each category. So for high-level goals, we scored at 46%, or strategic goals, we scored at 56%. And then the individual breakdown of each section. Now we can also see there as well, the comments have come through. So we've got those corresponding comments right beside. Scrolling down a little bit further, we then also have the radar charts. So the way to interpret these is the areas in white are the gap. The areas in blue are what we're currently achieving. So if someone's a little bit more visual, you might choose to present these instead. Now what we then provide is a breakdown of the 7 sections of the questionnaire. So we talk about those 7 sections, so the first one being the high-level goals, and we include their results as a reference there. So these ones here go into quite a lot of detail around that education side. You may choose to leave these in, or you may choose to take those out of the report. Now down towards the bottom of this report, as we can see here on the screen now, is our action plan. So the action plan closes out the client needs analysis, and this is a fantastic last aspect of the report to say, here's what we've identified, here's the current gaps, here's what we are suggesting we start with, let's get going. So if you're using this as a prospecting tool to try and win those advisory engagements, this is perfect. So what we can see is the topic, the corresponding action, the current notes that we've got applied to it, which were our comments from the questionnaire, Now, who's going to be responsible and when's it going to be completed by? So we might put in here, this is going to be for the business owner, and it needs to be done in the next 4 weeks by our next meeting. And we've got the current complete status there. So we can present this to our client with a proposal attached saying, let's get going. And it's a perfect closeout for that engagement. So that's a good indication of what the client needs analysis can do and how we can structure those initial meetings. So from there, let's jump back into the MAUS tool and we'll look at a couple of the other modules. So we're going to focus on 2 other main modules in today's session, those being the Kpi Dashboard and the Milestone and Projects. The reason we're focusing on those 2 is that these are fantastic and paramount for that monthly advisory engagement, that monthly accountability and that monthly measurables. From there as well, depending on the services you're offering, you may also be looking to utilize the business planning tools or the virtual CFO for that financial reporting, or if you're interested in the exit planning segment, ValueMax. So again, if you want to look at any of those other tools, just get in contact with us here at MAUS and we can take you through them. Now the Kpi Dashboard, as mentioned, this one also links in with your QuickBooks, your Xero files, and also Excel for any other data sources. So in the KPI scorecard, it's broken down into 2 areas, the company scorecard and the accounting scorecard. The company scorecard is where we can tailor our own dashboard and add in the KPIs that we want to be measuring this company on each month. The accounting scorecard is locked, and that's those financial-based KPIs. So what it grabs from Xero and QuickBooks and what we require from the Excel import is purely the balance sheet and the profit and loss, and that will bring through all those entries for us. So let's look at the company one in this instance. So what we can see here is we've got this 1-page dashboard that gives us a complete breakdown of how they're performing. So we're operating in the future at the moment, so I've got October 2018 already filled in there, and we can see a snapshot of how we're performing. So this graph on the left-hand side is a 12-month historical graph, and we can edit what we're looking at. So at the moment we're looking at revenue and cost of sales. If I want to change that to be just revenue, for instance, we just click Update Chart, and we can see that there. On the right-hand side, we can see our top 3 KPIs, and we can change those via the drop-down. So in this case, we can see total expenses was an achievement of 96% because our actual was 52,000, but the target was 50. And obviously being an expense, that's a negative result. Now those target figures, if you have the target figures associated in your Xero files and QuickBooks files, they'll automatically come through. For those other KPIs that we might create, you can just apply a generic target to them. Just below there, we get this fantastic monthly commentary. So looking at what were the major successes for the client, what were the major obstacles, what are they working on in regards to the marketing, financial, innovation, or systems and processes aspects of the business. And just below there, we provide a 12-month historical view of individual KPIs. And here's where we can measure them against their target or the last year figure. So up the top of the page here, just scrolling up, we can change that between target and last year. And just below that, we get this fantastic traffic light report showing the monthly results through to the year-to-date figures based on the KPIs that we have assigned to this scorecard. So in this case, I've got the KPIs of revenue, cost of sales, and so forth assigned to the company. If I change that over up the top here to the accounting scorecard, you'll notice these KPIs will be quite different, as we can see there. So they're all the KPIs that will update from the Xero or QuickBooks files. Now just below there, we can see we've got a little blue box that says action up the top left. Now this is quite a fantastic feature in the tool, which actually links it through to the Milestone and Projects module. So the reason this is here is, let's say we've met with a client at a monthly meeting, and we've identified, looking at the KPIs, a couple of different issues that we need to be working on. Rather than me just mentioning that to the client and us probably both forgetting about it, hold them accountable to it. So we can create a task for them. So we can simply type in what the action is, assign it to the individual in the business. Now as you can see, we can take it to individual people in the business, assign a due date, and click Add Action. And that will simply add it straight away into the Milestone and Projects module where we are about to jump into. Now just at the top here as well, to highlight, everything is reportable in MAUS as well. So in this company scorecard, for instance, I can pull out a Word, Excel, and PDF document. So just clicking on Word there, that'll pull out a Word report for us from everything on this one-page dashboard here. Now up the top right, before we leave the KPI dashboard, you can see there's a couple of other buttons. So if we want to enter data here in the system without having to do an Excel import-export every time, we can do so. So I can just click on Edit Data there and enter in our figures. And that's where you can also see the link to Xero and QuickBooks. If you wanted to add any KPIs into the system, you simply click on the Add KPI button here, which will take you through to the Adding KPIs window. Now you can see in here I've already got a number of KPIs created, but I can simply click on Add New KPI and type in what we're adding in at that point. Now you can see the data we need for a new KPI, fairly general and fairly simple. We just need the KPI name. You can leave the short name blank. Decimal digits, depending on what we're measuring. Are we measuring it as a currency, number, or percentage? What's the target for that KPI? What's the classification, so what's that category we're putting it into, as you can see from just behind where my mouse is there. Now we can change those classifications as well. So these ones here, we can edit. And then we can also add in, is there any help info required? So how are we actually gathering that KPI figure? So if it's something like new leads into the business, we might have to gather that from the CRM system, or where's that going to be coming from? And then we just simply click Add, and that will add it into this list here. And that's really it for the KPI scorecard, the KPI dashboard, showing you how you can use that as that monthly accountability tool. So let's jump across to the milestone and projects. As I said, this one works quite well alongside the KPI scorecard. So milestone and projects, as I mentioned, is that task planner and project planner. So these are for your one-off tasks, not your recurring. If it's a recurring monthly measurable, put it into the KPIs. If it's a one-off project or task you need your client to complete, put it into the milestone and projects. So we start with adding a project. So I've got a number of different projects here in the system, and they're really the parent level, if you look at it that way. And then under that project, I've got a number of tasks. So under the project of milestones, I've got this range of tasks here. And I can toggle it between looking at all, completed or not complete. So let me change it over to not complete. And we can see we've got a number here. Now, all those red dots mean someone's been lazy because they're all overdue. So these are now past the due dates, which we can see on the right-hand side. The yellow dot means it's currently there. It's not yet completed, but it's not yet due. So that's okay. Now, behind each of these is fantastic email notifications. So every week, every fortnight, or every month, an automated email reminder will go off to those people, notifying them of their outstanding tasks. We can also change it over to the Gantt chart view, so you've got the task list view or the Gantt chart view. And this one here will allow us to look at it more on a graphical format, depending on how you want to look at those tasks. So that's really showing you how we can utilize those three core tools in MAUS as part of that advisory engagement. So what we looked at there was the client needs analysis initially to structure those initial meetings, the KPI dashboard to look at that monthly accountability and how we're going to be really driving that home for not only the business owner but also the individuals in the business. So the KPI dashboard can be taken down to the micro level of people within the business. Then we looked at the milestone and projects, the task planning tool that we have. And that really closes out how we're going to hold our client accountable as we're working with them on an ongoing basis. And that's really what we want to be driving home, is that ongoing advisory engagement. And that's where there's that really profitable model that everyone in the call today can be focusing on. As accountants, as bookkeepers, as financial planners, as business brokers, we should be all driving that advisory engagement. Now, as I mentioned, we've just looked at three core tools there today. But there's a whole other range. We've got a couple of minutes, so I might just jump into one of the other tools as well here, being the master plan, the business planning tool. So that one we click on over here on the left. The way this works is it writes the plan or the basis of a plan for you straight away. So we can write a simple or a detailed plan. If we're applying for bank finance, for instance, for our client, the simple plan is fine. If we want to write a detailed plan focusing on individual sections such as marketing or customer strategies, then the detailed plan is what we'd look at. So we click on Write Your Plan. Now, I've already created one in the past. The first time you do it as a user, it would pop up here saying, do you want to create a simple or a detailed plan? Now I think the GoToMeeting window is just catching up a bit there. It's just paused, but what it will then do is create that plan for you. It'll grab the company name and it will put it throughout the document and build the structure of it. Now the way it works is there's already a sample plan there. There we go. I think the GoToMeeting window is just caught up. So what I've got here is one of my plans already open. Now you can use that button at the top just to make the screen a little bit larger if you'd prefer. Otherwise we can leave that there. So on the left-hand side are all our sections to the business plan. So if I want to work on the SWOT analysis, I can simply click on this and click on SWOT. Now the content that we're about to see on the screen here is already in there. I haven't typed this in. So there's already a sample plan in here for you and the client and to give you that guidance. Also at the top of each section, there's a 1 to 2 liner about what we should be doing in that section. Now as you can see, some areas are rather detailed. So the marketing plan, you can see just how much there is in here. Now we can remove sections and only fill in certain sections, but that's why, yes, master plan is a business planning tool, but it can be used just to produce certain subsets of it. So if we just want to do a marketing plan, we can open this up, just fill in this one section, and then when we click on generate plan, meaning to pull it out of the system, we can just choose the marketing plan in this case. So if I just chose that there and click next, we would just pull out the marketing plan. Now for those that are doing a typical business plan, we also need to obviously look at the financials, and that's the other section to the business plan. So we click on financials up the top here, and it will open that up similar to the previous window with the menu on the left-hand side. So we go through and we just fill in the first few sections here. We don't need to fill in all of these. All these graphs down the bottom will automatically generate based on what we fill in up here. Now you can choose to fill it in here in the system, or you can do an export import to fill it in into Excel. So the second section there, the sales assumptions. This is where we just list our breakdown of sales. Now that can be by individual product or service or by category. We list the last year sales, forecast growth, cost of sales, and long-term forecast. The financial summary, this one here, very simple one to fill in. All we require is the growth rate, the EBIT, and the multiple range. Now when we talk about multiple range, we're talking about business value. The third one there, the expense and cash assumptions. This is where we list our expenses. So what are the expenses in the business? Are they spread over 12 months? So we can say yes or no. So yes means it's evenly spread over 12 months. No means we then allocate what month that falls into. So that's why this one here has month 1 and month 6. Or this one here has month 2, month 6, month 6, month 9. So that one's spread over 4 payments. So very simple to allocate those expenses there. Now the final section we really need to fill in is the seasonal fluctuations here, which is saying, do our sales fluctuate over the 12-month period? So maybe we are a summer apparel business, and in that case we would see sales increase around the end of the year. So these 3 here might be at a 2, and in the middle of the year here, that's why we've put them down at 50% of the sales. So we can represent how the sales are going to fluctuate over the 12-month period. Now from there on, the business plan for the financial section is done. So we can look at the revenue forecast graph, and that'll just update, seeing as we've changed that data around, that'll just have to update that for us. But then it's automatically going to produce these graphs. So we can see the revenue forecast graph. We can look at our cash flow graph based on these figures here. So this one's a bit of a roller coaster ride, but now trending well. We can look at the cash flow statement. So all of these here will produce for us. Now, when we produce the final business plan, it will pull in those financials. So if we wanted to pull out the complete business plan, we just go back to where we were before. We click on the Generate Plan button, and we would choose the complete plan. So we would choose that and click Next. Before you pull out the plan, it will allow you to add in a header or a footer by default into the Word document. Do you want to show a table of contents, page numbers, and then click Compile, and that will generate it into a Word doc for you. So that's a good summary of what some of the core tools at MAUS are. As I mentioned, if there's any other areas you want to look at in particular, do let us know. We do have a range of videos that we can send out as well, or schedule one-on-one demo sessions for you. Now in terms of MAUS and our licensing behind it, we do not put limits on how many clients you can use the tool with. So you as a firm can be using the tool with 1 client, or you can be using the tool with 50 clients. So I'll just bring across now onto the page just to give everyone a overview of our pricing structure in the system, and this is what we're looking at. So those initial tools that we looked at today, that's looking at our starter pack, and that's $199 per month. and that is for one advisor login but unlimited clients. The second tier there, the strategist package, looks at those core tools, but then also the addition of either Master Plan and Virtual CFO or our Value Max tools. Now with these as well, if you are not necessarily going to leverage one of those and you want to sub in any for each other, you can do so. Just let us know. These are all bespoke and customizable. And then finally, the All Modules package at the top end there is our complete system. So including all of those tools, many of which we didn't get to have a look at today, but looking at the HR, the systems, the exit planning and so forth. So that gives you a really good indication of our pricing structure there. But no, thank you everyone for attending today's session. It's great to take you all through it. What we've looked at today is the software side of what we do. MAUS also does run a lot of educational programs for people transitioning to advisory services. So for instance, on October the 25th, so in a couple of weeks now, we're running a one-day course, a certified advisor course in Sydney at Manly at the International College of Management. If any of you are interested in looking at those sorts of events to try and upskill yourself and help that transition to advisory services, just get in touch. You can email admin@maus.com.au or call through to us on 02 9907 1669. Thanks very much for everyone attending.